The alarm bell screamed through every corridor of Harmony Point Station. Red lights flashed in angry pulses, casting strange shadows on the metal walls. Dr. Sarah Chen looked up from her research notes as the sound pierced through her quiet laboratory. Something was very wrong. The station had been peaceful just minutes ago. Representatives from 12 different alien species lived and worked together here, far from their homeworlds. It was supposed to be a place of learning and friendship between the stars, but now Sarah could hear heavy footsteps running through the hallways outside her door. She pressed her hand against the wall panel to open her door and stepped out. The corridor buzzed with activity. Alien beings she had never seen move so fast were rushing in different directions. Their faces showed fear and panic. "What's happening?" Sarah asked a passing Zentari diplomat. The blue-skinned creature stopped for a moment, its 3 eyes wide with worry. "The Queen's offspring is missing," the Zentari whispered. "Queen Zixithara's child has vanished from the royal quarters. No one knows how or where." Sarah felt her stomach drop. Queen Zixithara of the Velkari Empire was the most feared being on the station. The Velkari looked like giant insects with hard shells covering their bodies and sharp claws that could cut through metal. They were warriors who had conquered many worlds. Their queen was the fiercest of them all. The Zentari hurried away, leaving Sarah standing alone in the corridor. She had studied many alien species, but the Velkari still made her nervous. They were so different from humans. Where humans were soft and warm, the Velkari were hard and cold. Where humans talked through problems, the Velkari fought. A deep, angry sound echoed through the station. It was like nothing Sarah had ever heard before. The sound came from the direction of the royal quarters. Queen Zixithara was not happy. Sarah made her way toward the central hub of the station. Other beings pressed themselves against the walls as Velkari warriors marched past. These soldiers were smaller than their queen, but still twice the size of Sarah. Their black shells gleamed under the station lights. Their eyes glowed red with anger. "Search every room," one warrior chittered to another in their clicking language. Sarah's translation device worked hard to turn their words into English. "Tear apart every hiding place. The heir must be found." The station's human commander, Captain Rodriguez, stood in the main control room. His face was pale and sweaty. Sarah had never seen him look so worried. "How bad is this?" Sarah asked him quietly. Captain Rodriguez turned to her with tired eyes. "Very bad, Dr. Chen. The Queen's offspring disappeared sometime during the night cycle. The little one was in the most secure room on the station. No one knows how it got out or where it went." "What does the offspring look like?" Sarah asked. "Small," the captain said. "About the size of a human baby. It hasn't grown its hard shell yet. The Velkari call it Kethling. It's the Queen's only child and the heir to their entire empire." Sarah watched the security feeds on the big screens. Velkari warriors moved through every section of the station. They checked storage rooms, air vents, and even garbage disposals. Other aliens stayed in their quarters, too scared to come out. Queen Zixithara herself appeared on one of the screens. Sarah had seen the Queen before, but only from far away. Up close, she was even more frightening. The Queen stood over 8 feet tall. Her shell was deep black with silver markings. Her 4 arms ended in claws that could easily cut a human in half, but it was her eyes that scared Sarah the most. They burned with an anger that seemed to come from the depths of space itself. "My child." The Queen's voice came through the speakers. Her words were slow and careful, like she was trying not to break something with her voice alone. "Return my child to me, or this station will become a tomb for all who dwell here." The other alien ambassadors gathered in small groups, whispering to each other. Sarah could see the fear in their faces. Some were already packing their belongings, ready to leave the station as soon as possible. "She means it," said Ambassador Krell of the Thorian Confederacy. His gray skin had turned almost white with fear. "I've seen what the Velkari do to worlds that anger them. They don't leave anything alive." "But no one took her child," protested Dr. Yeath, a scientist from the Aquarian systems. "Who would be foolish enough to steal from the Velkari Queen?" Sarah listened to their worried talks. She knew these aliens were smart and brave in their own ways. The Thorians had built amazing cities on dead worlds. The Aquarians could swim in the deepest oceans of space, but they were all afraid of the Velkari. Hours passed. The warriors searched every inch of the station. They looked in rooms, behind panels, and inside machines. They questioned every person they met, but they found nothing. Sarah returned to her laboratory to think. She was a xenobiologist, which meant she studied how different alien species lived and acted. Maybe she could help figure out where a small Velkari offspring might go. She pulled up files on her computer about Velkari behavior. Most of the information was about adult warriors. There wasn't much known about their children. The Velkari kept their young ones hidden away from other species. What Sarah did know was interesting. Young Velkari were very different from adults. They were soft and weak. They needed warmth and protection. Adult Velkari were cold-blooded, but the babies were warm-blooded until they grew their shells. She also knew that young animals often acted on instinct when they were scared. They looked for warm, safe places to hide. They searched for comfort when they felt lost. Sarah heard more angry sounds from the royal quarters. The queen was getting more upset as time passed. The Velkari warriors were also becoming more aggressive. They had started threatening other aliens, demanding answers that no one had. "If the heir is not found by tomorrow," one warrior announced, "we will begin removing inhabitants from the station, starting with the weakest species." Everyone knew the warrior meant humans. In the eyes of the Velkari, humans were the most fragile beings on the station. They had no natural weapons, no hard shells, and no special powers. If someone was going to be blamed for the missing child, it would probably be them. Sarah felt scared but also determined. She had to help find this lost child, not just to save the other people on the station, but because somewhere out there was a small, frightened creature that needed help. She looked at the station maps on her computer. Harmony Point was huge, with hundreds of rooms and thousands of hiding places. But maybe the offspring wasn't hiding in an obvious place. Maybe it had found somewhere warm and safe, away from all the anger and fear. Sarah decided to start her own search. She would look for places a small, scared creature might go, places that felt safe and comfortable, places that reminded a lost child of home. As she left her laboratory, Sarah could hear the Queen's voice echoing through the station again. But this time, under all that anger, Sarah heard something else. She heard the sound of a mother who had lost her child, and that was a sound that every species in the galaxy could understand. The docking bay of the Zilani flagship Harmony's Dream had never hosted alien visitors before. Ambassador Cathara watched nervously as the human shuttle approached. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the strange bipedal creatures inside. They looked even more unsettling in person than on the view screen. "Remember," she told her staff, "these beings came to help us. Try not to show fear, even if their appearance disturbs you." The shuttle landed with surprising gentleness for something built by apparent warriors. The airlock cycled and the first human stepped out. Admiral Zhang looked around the docking bay with eyes that seemed to take in every detail. Behind him came 4 other humans, each carrying what were obviously weapons despite claims they were ceremonial. Cathara stepped forward, trying not to flinch as the human's predator eyes focused on her. "Admiral Zhang, welcome aboard. We are grateful for your assistance." The human performed a strange ritual, extending one of his hands toward her. "The honor is ours, Ambassador. On behalf of humanity, let me say how sorry we are for what your people are suffering." Captain Veltar whispered urgently. "He wants to touch you." "Is it some kind of threat display?" Admiral Zhang must have heard because he lowered his hand and smiled that unsettling tooth-showing expression again. "Forgive me. I should have realized our customs might seem strange. Among humans, we shake hands as a greeting between equals." Equals? Cathara was surprised. Most species they encountered considered themselves superior to the peaceful Zilani. Any species brave enough to call for help when facing extinction, and wise enough to offer payment for military aid, deserves respect, Zhang replied. "Now shall we discuss how to kill these Vorthak?" The casual way the human mentioned killing made several Zilani step backward. Cathara forced herself to remain calm and led the group toward the conference room. As they walked, she noticed how the humans moved. Despite their compact frames, they seemed coiled and ready for violence at any moment. "Your fleet is impressive," she said, trying to make conversation. 12 ships. Our entire defense force has 30 vessels, only 12, asked one of Zhang's officers, a female with darker skin and sharp eyes. "Admiral, maybe we should call for reinforcements." Zhang shook his head. 12 should be enough for initial engagement, Captain Santos. If we need more firepower, the Second Fleet can reach us in 6 days. Cathara stopped walking. Second Fleet? How many ships does humanity possess? The Sol Defense Force has about 800 active vessels, Zhang said matter-of-factly. Plus another 4,000 in reserve and the planetary defense grids. Why? The Zilani delegation exchanged shocked looks. The entire Galactic Confederacy had maybe 2,000 ships total, and most of those were civilian transports. How had a species they'd never heard of built such a massive military? In the conference room, Admiral Zhang studied holographic displays of Vorthak ships with professional interest. Crystalline bioforms, he mused. Self-repairing hulls. Hive mind coordination. Energy absorption capabilities. He looked up at Cathara. Have you tried kinetic bombardment? Kinetic weapons pass through their crystal matrix harmlessly, reported Captain Veltar. What about high explosive rounds? Fragmentation charges? Nuclear warheads? The Zilani looked confused. Nuclear? You mean atomic weapons? Those were banned by Galactic Treaty 3,000 years ago. They're weapons of mass destruction. The humans exchanged glances. Captain Santos spoke carefully. Admiral, I think we need to explain human military doctrine. Zhang nodded. Ambassador, may I ask how your species resolves conflicts? Cathara tilted her head. Through negotiation and compromise. If that fails, economic sanctions. Violence is always the last resort, and even then we use minimal force. That's admirable, Zhang said. But it assumes your opponent is rational and willing to negotiate. The Vorthak don't seem interested in talking. No, Cathara admitted. They simply consume everything. Then you need predators to fight predators, said Captain Santos. Admiral, show them the tactical archives. Zhang activated a portable display device. Holographic images filled the air. Human soldiers in combat, massive explosions, orbital bombardments that cracked planet surfaces. The Zilani watched in horror as humans demonstrated warfare techniques that violated every civilized principle. This is from our last major conflict, Zhang explained. The Mars Independence War ended 40 years ago. 3 million casualties over 6 months. 3 million? Cathara felt sick. In 6 months? That was considered a minor regional dispute, Santos added. Our global wars killed hundreds of millions. The third nuclear exchange in 2157 reduced Earth's population by half. The conference room fell silent. Finally, Captain Veltar found his voice. Your species. You kill your own kind in such numbers? We're trying to get better at solving problems without violence, Zhang said. But yes, humanity has extensive experience with warfare. It's made us very good at it. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the human medical officer, leaned forward. May I ask what kind of world your species evolved on? Zilani Prime has low gravity and a stable climate, Cathara replied. Abundant plant life, gentle weather patterns, no major predators. It's classified as a garden world. Earth is what we call a Class 12 death world, Vasquez explained. High gravity, extreme weather, massive predators, frequent natural disasters. Surviving required constant adaptation and competition. Death world? The translator struggled with the concept. A planet where everything tries to kill you, Santos said cheerfully. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, poisonous plants, carnivorous animals, disease outbreaks, ice ages. Humans evolved to survive in those conditions. Zhang pulled up another display. This is why we think we can help you. Look at Vorthak attack patterns. They rely on overwhelming numbers and energy absorption. Their formations are rigid, suggesting hive mind coordination. They've never faced opponents who use unpredictable individual tactics. Individual tactics? Asked Veltar. Each human ship captain can make independent decisions, Santos explained. We coordinate through communication, not mental links. If you cut off our communications, we keep fighting. If you kill our leaders, others take command. The Vorthak hive mind might control millions of ships, but it's still just one intelligence. And if that intelligence can be confused or overwhelmed, Zhang smiled that predatory smile again. The whole swarm becomes vulnerable. Cathara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's climate systems. You speak of warfare like it's a science. It is, all 5 humans said simultaneously. Dr. Vasquez activated her medical scanner and ran it over Cathara with permission. Fascinating. Your bone density is 60% lower than human standard. Your muscle fibers are optimized for efficiency, not strength. Your brain chemistry shows elevated empathy responses. You're literally built for peace. While humans are built for war, Cathara said quietly. Built for survival, Zhang corrected. War is just one tool we use. But when diplomacy fails and extinction threatens, sometimes violence is the only answer. An alarm sounded throughout the ship. Captain Veltar activated his communicator. Report. Vorthak scouts detected at the edge of the system, came the reply. Estimated arrival of main force in 18 hours. Zhang stood immediately. Ambassador, we need those tactical files now. Everything you have on Vorthak capabilities, formation patterns, and response times. You're going to fight them? Kethara asked. We're going to destroy them, Zhang replied. Captain Santos, signal the fleet. All ships to battle stations. Time to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten our friends. As the humans prepared to leave, Kethara called out, Admiral, what if you lose? What if the Vorthak are too powerful? Zhang paused at the airlock. Ambassador, my species crawled out of caves and conquered our entire world. We've survived asteroid impacts, nuclear wars, and pandemics that should have wiped us out. We've fought in every possible environment. Land, sea, air, space, even inside black holes. He looked directly at her with those unsettling predator eyes. The Vorthak think they're the apex species because they've never met real competition. They're about to discover that humans don't just survive extinction events. His smile was sharp as broken glass. We turn them into opportunities. The Vorthak swarm emerged from hyperspace like a plague of living darkness. Thousands of crystalline ships moved in perfect formation, their biohulls pulsing with absorbed energy from previous conquests. At their center, a massive node vessel coordinated the hive mind that controlled them all. Admiral Zhang watched the display from the bridge of his flagship, Retribution. Beside him, Ambassador Kethara tried not to show her terror. The swarm was 3 times larger than intelligence reports had suggested. My God, whispered Captain Santos from her position at the tactical station. There must be 10,000 ships out there. 11,467, corrected the sensors officer. Still emerging from hyperspace. Zhang remained calm as he studied the enemy formation. Standard hive mind deployment pattern, central command node with defensive escorts, attack wings spreading in a spiral formation. They're not expecting resistance. How can you be so calm? Kethara asked. They outnumber your fleet almost 1,000 to 1. Because numbers don't always matter, Zhang replied. Captain Santos, signal all ships. Execute Plan Delta 7. The human fleet broke apart in a maneuver that looked like retreat. Ships scattered in different directions, some moving toward the asteroid belt, others diving toward the system's gas giant. From the Vorthak perspective, the enemy was fleeing in panic. The hive mind directed its forces to pursue and destroy the scattered human vessels. This had always worked before. Prey species ran when faced with the swarm, and running prey was easy to hunt down and consume, but the humans weren't actually running. Commander Torres, captain of the destroyer Lightning Strike, watched as a wing of Vorthak fighters followed him toward the asteroid belt. His ship darted between massive space rocks, the crystalline creatures close behind. They were fast, but human ships had been designed for exactly this kind of maneuvering. Target lock acquired, reported his weapons officer. Wait for it, Torres said calmly. The Vorthak ships were almost in position. Wait, now. Lightning Strike suddenly reversed direction, spinning around a large asteroid and opening fire at point-blank range. But these weren't the energy weapons the Vorthak had learned to absorb. These were old-fashioned kinetic rounds, chunks of depleted uranium accelerated to significant fractions of light speed. The Vorthak biohulls, evolved to absorb and redirect energy, had no defense against simple mass moving very fast. The kinetic rounds punched through crystal armor like bullets through glass. 3 enemy fighters exploded in spectacular displays of stored energy. The hive mind recoiled in shock. These weapons were primitive, almost barbaric. What kind of species still used kinetic projectiles in space combat? The kind that had learned warfare the hard way. All across the battlefield, human ships revealed their true nature. The cruiser Mjolnir emerged from behind the gas giant's largest moon, its nuclear torpedo tubes already loaded. Captain Park had spent the last hour carefully calculating firing solutions. When the Vorthak pursuit force came around the moon, they flew directly into a spread of fusion warheads. The explosions lit up space like tiny suns. The Vorthak biohulls tried to absorb the nuclear fire, but the sheer energy output overwhelmed their capacity. Ships that had survived centuries of conquest died in nuclear flame. Impossible, the hive mind thought through 10,000 crystal voices. These weapons are forbidden. No civilized species uses nuclear arms in space combat. Admiral Zhang smiled as he watched the tactical display. Whoever said humans were civilized? The real shock came when the Vorthak tried their usual absorption tactics. Energy weapons that should have been turned against the humans simply disappeared. The crystalline ships glowed brighter as they prepared to redirect the absorbed power back at their enemies. but the beams they fired struck nothing but empty space. "Evasion pattern, Charlie," Santos called out. Every human ship suddenly changed direction, their movements seemingly random but actually carefully choreographed. The Vorthak found themselves firing at where the humans had been, not where they were going. The hive mind struggled to adapt. Its strategy had always relied on predictable enemy behavior. Civilized species fought in organized formations, used standard tactics, followed logical patterns. But human ships moved like a school of fish avoiding a predator. No central coordination, just individual pilots making split-second decisions. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "we're receiving surrender requests from the Zilani fleet." Zhang looked at the display. The Confederacy ships were holding position at the edge of the battle, their crews convinced they were watching humanity's destruction. The scattered human formation looked chaotic, desperate. "Tell them to hold position and watch," Zhang ordered. "They're about to see something new." The Vorthak node vessel, a crystalline mountain the size of a city, began broadcasting coordination signals to restore order to the hive mind. It was the perfect target, but heavily defended by thousands of escort ships, which was exactly what Zhang had been waiting for. "All ships, execute Phoenix Protocol," he commanded. Captain Maria Santos felt her heart race as she received the order. Phoenix Protocol was humanity's most desperate tactic, and its most effective. "Admiral, are you sure?" "The casualties will be acceptable," Zhang replied firmly. "For every human who dies today, 1,000,000 Zilani children will live. Execute the order." The human fleet suddenly changed formation again, but this time, instead of scattering, they converged on the node vessel. Ships that had been running individual battles across the system now burned their engines at maximum power, racing toward the hive mind's control center. The Vorthak escorts moved to intercept, but the humans had timed their approach perfectly. Ships arrived from 12 different vectors simultaneously, making it impossible to defend against all of them. The battle became a knife fight in space. Human vessels deliberately took damage to close with Vorthak ships, their crews knowing that getting close enough for boarding actions was worth any sacrifice. And then the Vorthak experienced something they had never encountered before. Individual enemy warriors fighting inside their own vessels. Lieutenant Jackson kicked open the airlock of his boarding pod and stepped into a Vorthak bioship with a combat shotgun in his hands. The crystalline creatures inside looked like giant insects made of living diamond. They were beautiful, alien, and utterly without mercy. Jackson started shooting. The Vorthak had never faced boarding actions before. Their crystal bodies were nearly indestructible, their energy weapons devastating, but they had evolved for space combat, not close quarters fighting. And humans had been perfecting the art of violence at arm's length for thousands of years. Jackson's shotgun fired explosive rounds that shattered crystal carapaces. His squad moved through the ship like apex predators, using tactics learned in 100 human wars. Room clearing, corridor fighting, urban warfare, skills that no other species had needed to develop. Similar scenes played out across dozens of Vorthak vessels. Human marines boarded enemy ships with weapons that seemed primitive, but proved devastatingly effective. Flamethrowers that turned crystalline corridors into furnaces, plasma cutters that carved through biohulls, explosive charges that broke hive mind connections. The node vessel found itself surrounded by human ships. Admiral Zhang looked at the massive crystalline structure and made a decision that would haunt galactic civilization for generations. "All ships ramming speed," he ordered calmly. "Sir?" Captain Santos stared at him in shock. "The node vessel coordinates their entire fleet. If we destroy it, the hive mind collapses. The Vorthak become just individual creatures without central coordination. But Admiral, ramming the node will destroy retribution. The entire crew." Zhang looked at her with eyes that had seen too many wars. "Captain, relay my last message to Earth Command." "Tell them." "Tell them we found friends worth dying for." The Retribution and 3 other human vessels accelerated toward the node vessel at maximum velocity. The Vorthak tried desperately to stop them, but nothing could halt ships whose crews had already accepted death. The collision lit up space like a supernova. The node vessel, for all its size and power, cracked apart under the impact of 4 human warships moving at relativistic speeds. The explosion took out the central nervous system of the entire swarm. Across the battlefield, Vorthak ships suddenly stopped moving in coordination. The hive mind was broken. Individual creatures found themselves alone in space for the first time in their species' existence, and they panicked. The remaining human vessels, badly damaged but still fighting, pressed their attack. What had been an organized swarm became a collection of confused individuals. The crystalline creatures, evolved to function as part of a greater whole, couldn't adapt to independent action. Within 2 hours, the battle was over. The Vorthak swarm, terror of the galaxy for 3 centuries, was destroyed. On the bridge of Harmony's dream, Ambassador Cathara watched the aftermath in stunned silence. The humans had lost 4 ships and nearly 3,000 crew members. But they had saved the Zelani Confederacy and eliminated a threat that had seemed unstoppable. How? She whispered. How did they know to target the node vessel? Captain Santos, now the senior surviving human officer, looked tired but satisfied. Because we've fought hive minds before. Not in space, but the principle is the same. Dr. Elena Vasquez had seen many alien species during her years as a xenobiologist, but she had never seen anything like what she discovered in the Zelani medical bay. The sophisticated scanners revealed truths about humanity that even she found disturbing. These readings can't be correct, muttered Dr. Tethran, the Zelani chief medical officer. His forearms moved frantically over the control panels, double-checking every measurement. According to this data, human bone density is 3 times galactic standard. Your muscle fibers show stress adaptation beyond anything in our databases. Vasquez looked at the holographic display showing her own biology compared to other species. Humans appeared as red anomalies on every chart. What seems to be the problem, Doctor? The problem? Tetheran's antennae quivered with excitement and fear. Dr. Vasquez, these scans indicate that your species evolved on a world that should have killed you. Multiple times. Ambassador Cathara entered the medical bay, still shaken from witnessing the battle against the Vorthak. She had requested this meeting to better understand the allies who had saved her people. Now she wondered if she really wanted to know. Please explain, she said, settling onto a low chair designed for Zelani physiology. Dr. Vasquez activated the holographic projector. An image of Earth appeared, slowly rotating to show its blue oceans and swirling white clouds. This is our homeworld. We call it Earth or Terra. It looks beautiful, said Cathara. Like a garden world. Look closer, Vasquez replied, adjusting the display. New data appeared around the planet. Gravity 9.8 meters per second squared. That's nearly twice what most spacefaring species consider comfortable. Atmospheric pressure 101.3 kilopascals. Oxygen content 21%, high enough to support rapid combustion and frequent wildfires. Dr. Tethran was taking notes frantically. Those conditions would be challenging but survivable. What makes it what did you call it? A Class 12 death world, Vasquez said calmly. But we're just getting started. Earth experiences regular ice ages every 100,000 years or so. During these periods, most of the planet becomes uninhabitable. Massive ice sheets cover the continents. Sea levels drop by hundreds of meters and most plant life dies. The hologram shifted to show Earth during an ice age. The planet looked alien and hostile, covered in glaciers and frozen oceans. How did your species survive such events? Asked Cathara. By adapting, Vasquez replied. Humans developed larger brains to solve complex problems. We learned to make tools, control fire, build shelters, and preserve food. But the ice ages were just one threat. She changed the display again. Now it showed massive volcanic eruptions, their ash clouds blocking out the sun. Supervolcanic eruptions happen every few 100,000 years. The Toba eruption 74,000 years ago reduced the human population to perhaps 10,000 individuals. We nearly went extinct. 10,000? Dr. Tethran looked horrified. From how many? Maybe 1 million, Vasquez said. Climate change, volcanic ash, disease, starvation. It was what we call a bottleneck event. But those 10,000 survivors carried the genes for intelligence, adaptability, and cooperation. They rebuilt our species. Cathara felt her scales prickle with sympathetic fear. What other disasters did you face? Asteroid impacts, Vasquez continued matter-of-factly. The Chicxulub impact 65 million years ago killed the dinosaurs, but smaller impacts continued throughout human evolution. Meteor strikes, gamma-ray bursts, solar flares. Earth's position in the galaxy exposes it to regular extinction-level events. Yet you survived them all, said Dr. Tethran. More than survived. We thrived. Vasquez showed a time-lapse of human development. Each disaster made us stronger. We developed medicine to fight diseases that killed other species. We created agriculture to survive climate changes. We built cities that could withstand earthquakes and hurricanes. But surely your planet became more hospitable as your technology advanced, asked Cathara hopefully. Vasquez laughed, a sound that still made the Zilani nervous. Ambassador, we haven't even discussed the biological threats. Earth has more species of lethal predators than most planets have total species. Sharks, lions, tigers, bears, crocodiles, venomous snakes, poisonous spiders, disease-carrying insects. Our world is trying to kill us constantly. She showed images of Earth's predators. The Zilani delegation stepped backward instinctively, even though they were looking at holograms. This is why your combat effectiveness surprised the Vorthak, Dr. Tethran realized. You didn't just evolve intelligence. You evolved to fight. Every human carries genes for violence, Vasquez confirmed. Our ancestors survived by being better predators than anything else on Earth. We hunted mammoths with stone spears. We drove saber-toothed cats to extinction. We turned wolves into pets and horses into transportation. Kithara was beginning to understand the true scope of what they had summoned. Your entire species is composed of apex predators. In a sense, yes. But that's not the most important adaptation we developed. Vasquez changed the display to show human communities throughout history. The real secret to human survival isn't our individual strength. It's our ability to cooperate in large groups. Most predators are solitary, observed Dr. Tethran. Exactly. But humans learn to work together while maintaining individual initiative. We can coordinate like a hive mind when necessary. But each person can still make independent decisions. That's what confused the Vorthak so much. Captain Santos entered the medical bay, her arm in a regeneration sling from the recent battle. Dr. Vasquez, we just received communications from across the galaxy. Word about the Vorthak defeat is spreading. What kind of communications? Asked Kithara. Santos activated her personal display unit. Mixed reactions. The Crystalline Collective wants to establish diplomatic relations. The hegemony of evolved minds has issued a formal warning about human aggressive tendencies. About 40 species have sent exploratory messages asking about military assistance. Military assistance? Cathara was alarmed. Are there other threats like the Vorthak? Apparently so, Santos replied grimly. Pirates attacking trade routes. Rogue AI systems left over from ancient wars. Something called the Devourers operating in the Galactic Rim. And there are reports of automated defense systems that attack anything entering certain star systems. Dr. Vasquez nodded. This is what we expected. A galaxy this old and diverse was bound to have accumulated various existential threats. Most civilizations can't deal with them because they evolved on peaceful worlds. But humans can, said Dr. Tethran. It wasn't a question. We're certainly willing to try, Santos said. Admiral Zhang gave his life to save people he'd never met before. That's the kind of species we are. We protect our friends even if it costs us everything. Cathara felt emotions she couldn't identify. Gratitude, certainly, but also something like fear. Captain, what does humanity want in return for this protection? Santos looked surprised by the question. Want? Ambassador, you already paid us with the greatest gift possible. The psionium crystals? No. Santos smiled, that predatory smile that was somehow becoming less frightening. You showed us that there are good people in the galaxy worth protecting. For the first time in human history, our warriors can fight for something other than survival or conquest. We can fight for justice. Dr. Vasquez pulled up a star chart showing known galactic civilizations. The thing is, Ambassador, most species in this galaxy are like you. Peaceful, intelligent, evolved on garden worlds. They've never had to develop military capabilities because they didn't need them. Until now, Cathara said quietly. Until now. But humans evolved differently. We spent millions of years learning to fight, to survive, to protect our tribes from extinction. We developed technologies and tactics that peaceful species never needed. Captain Santos checked her communication device. Speaking of which, we just received a priority message from Earth. The second and third fleets have been authorized for galactic deployment. Apparently, the UN Security Council has decided that humanity's role in galactic civilization is to be its guardians. Guardians? Asked Dr. Tethran. Protectors, Santos explained. Species who fight so others don't have to. Warriors who stand between innocent people and the darkness that wants to destroy them. Kethara looked at the star chart, seeing it differently now. Each point of light represented millions or billions of lives that could be threatened by forces beyond their ability to resist. But now there was hope. Somewhere in the galaxy were predators who chose to hunt evil instead of prey. "There's something I don't understand," she said. "If humans are so violent and dangerous, why do you choose to protect us? Why not conquer the galaxy for yourselves?" Dr. Vasquez and Captain Santos exchanged a look that spoke of shared human experiences the Zilani could never fully understand. "Because," Santos said finally, "the strongest predators don't need to prove anything by bullying the weak. We've already proven we can survive anything the universe throws at us. Now we want to prove we can build something better." She gestured toward the viewport showing the mixed fleet of human and Zilani ships working together to clear battle debris. "Besides," she added with that increasingly familiar human smile, "what's the point of being the toughest species in the galaxy if there's nobody left to have interesting conversations?" 6 months after the Battle of Delian, the galaxy was still adjusting to the existence of humanity. Captain Maria Santos stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, the first permanent human base outside the Sol system. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see ships from dozens of species docked at the massive orbital platform. "Captain Santos," called Ambassador Kethara as she approached with her usual graceful stride. The Zilani diplomat had been appointed as the official liaison between humanity and the Galactic Confederacy. "The morning briefing is ready." Santos smiled, noting that Kethara no longer flinched at the sight of human teeth. "Thank you, Ambassador. Any interesting developments overnight?" 3 new species have requested military assistance," Kethara replied, consulting her datapad. "The Aquatic Collective is dealing with automated mining platforms that are stripping their ocean worlds. The Hive Republics report strange signals from the galactic core that seem to be affecting their technology, and the Academic Union has detected what they think might be a rogue artificial intelligence in the neutral zone." Santos nodded as they walked toward the command center. The requests for human military intervention had been increasing steadily since word of the Vorthak defeat spread across known space. Species that had never considered warfare were suddenly very interested in having warriors as friends. "What about the hegemony of evolved minds?" Santos asked. "Any response to our latest diplomatic message?" Kethara's antenna drooped slightly. "They've issued another formal warning about human destabilization of galactic peace. Their exact words were that humanity represents an unacceptable risk to civilized order." The command center buzzed with activity as beings from multiple species worked together. Human officers coordinated with Zilani analysts, while engineers from the Crystalline Collective helped maintain the station's exotic matter reactors. It was a sight that would have been impossible just 6 months ago. Admiral Rebecca Chen, Admiral Zhang's replacement as head of Human Galactic Operations, looked up from her command console. "Captain Santos, we've got a situation developing in the Outer Rim. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving toward inhabited systems." "The Devourers?" Santos asked, referring to the mysterious entities that consumed entire star systems. "Possibly. The energy patterns match previous sightings, but they're moving faster than expected. At current speed, they'll reach the Peaceful Garden Worlds in 3 weeks. Kethara felt her scales pale. The Peaceful Garden Worlds were home to over 2 billion beings from 7 different species. All of them were herbivorous, completely pacifist, and utterly defenseless. "How many ships can we deploy?" Santos asked. "The second fleet is currently dealing with the automated defense grid in Sector 7. The third fleet is investigating those AI signals near the galactic core. We could recall them, but it would take 2 weeks minimum." Santos studied the tactical display. "What about local forces? Any species in that region with military capabilities?" Admiral Chen shook her head. "The Peaceful Garden Worlds were established specifically as a refuge for nonviolent species. They don't even have planetary defense systems. So if these Devourers reach them..." Kethara couldn't finish the sentence. 2 billion people die," Santos said grimly. "Admiral, prep the first fleet for immediate deployment. I'll take personal command." "Captain?" Admiral Chen looked concerned. "The first fleet only has 18 ships. If these really are the Devourers, you'll be significantly outgunned. Then we'll have to be creative," Santos replied with that predatory smile that had become humanity's trademark across the galaxy. "Besides, when has being outgunned ever stopped humans before? As Santos prepared for departure, a priority communication arrived from Earth. The face of President Martinez appeared on the main screen, looking tired but determined. Captain Santos, I've been monitoring the situation in the Outer Rim. The UN Security Council has authorized Operation Guardian Angel. You have full, discretionary authority to use any means necessary to protect the peaceful garden worlds. Any means? Mr. President? Santos asked carefully. Captain, when Admiral Zhang died at Delian, he proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't our weapons or our tactics. It's our willingness to sacrifice everything for people we barely know. The world is watching to see if we're worthy of that sacrifice. The transmission ended, leaving Santos with the weight of human reputation resting on her shoulders. She turned to address the mixed crew of humans, Zelani, and other species who had volunteered for the mission. People, she announced, we're about to face something that might be more dangerous than the Vorthak. The Devourers have been consuming star systems for thousands of years. No one knows exactly what they are or how to stop them. She paused, looking at each face around her. But here's what I know. There are 2 billion innocent beings who are counting on us to stand between them and extinction. That's what humans do. That's what our friends do when they stand with us. We protect those who can't protect themselves. Lieutenant Jackson, promoted after his heroic boarding actions against the Vorthak, raised his hand. Captain, what if we can't win? Santos considered the question seriously. Then we make sure our sacrifice buys time for reinforcements to arrive. Better to die protecting innocence than to live knowing we let evil win without a fight. The First Fleet departed New Geneva Station 12 hours later. 18 human warships supported by 6 Zelani scouts and 3 crystalline collective research vessels. As they entered hyperspace, Santos thought about how much had changed since humanity's first contact with alien civilization. The trip to the Outer Rim took 5 days. During that time, long-range sensors provided increasingly disturbing information about the approaching threat. The Devourers weren't just ships or even a conventional fleet. They appeared to be massive entities that consumed matter and energy on a stellar scale. Captain, reported the sensor officer, I'm reading 12 distinct energy signatures. Each one is roughly the size of a small moon. They're not just moving through space, they're actually consuming it. Stars, planets, asteroids, even cosmic dust. Everything in their path just disappears. Santos studied the tactical display with growing concern. How do you fight something that eats reality itself? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Vasquez, now serving as the fleet's xenobiologist, made a discovery that changed everything. Captain, I've been analyzing the energy patterns from previous Devourer encounters. Look at this. She brought up a holographic display showing consumption rates over time. They don't actually destroy matter. They convert it into something else, some form of exotic energy that gets transmitted elsewhere. Transmitted where? Santos asked, unknown. But here's the interesting part. The transmission rate has been increasing over the past 1,000 years. Whatever they're feeding is getting hungrier. Lieutenant Commander Park, captain of the destroyer Soul's Pride, leaned forward. Are you saying these things are just harvesting the galaxy for something else? Exactly, Dr. Vasquez confirmed, which means they probably have a central coordination point, just like the Vorthak hive mind did. Santos felt the familiar rush of battle clarity that came to humans when faced with impossible odds. If there's a central control system, then there's something we can target. We just have to find it. The fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the peaceful garden system, just as the Devourers arrived. The entities were even more terrifying than the sensor readings had suggested. Each one looked like a black hole given physical form, spheres of absolute darkness that warped space around them. My God, whispered the communications officer. They're already starting to consume the outer planets. Santos watched as one of the Devourers approached a gas giant. The planet simply began to dissolve, its matter streaming into the dark entity like water down a drain. Within minutes, a world that had existed for billions of years was gone. All ships, battle stations, Santos ordered. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone who can't fight back. The human fleet accelerated toward the Devourers with the desperate courage that had become their signature. Weapons that had destroyed the Vorthak opened fire, but their attacks seemed to have no effect. Energy beams were absorbed, kinetic rounds disappeared into the darkness, even nuclear warheads vanished without causing damage. Captain, our weapons aren't working, reported the tactical officer. Then we go to Plan B, Santos replied calmly. All ships execute Project Phoenix. The human vessels suddenly changed formation, not to attack the Devourers directly, but to position themselves between the entities and the inhabited worlds. It was a desperate delaying action that could only end one way. But sometimes, the willingness to sacrifice everything is exactly what's needed to find a solution. As the Devourers moved to consume the human fleet, Dr. Vasquez made a crucial observation. Captain, look at the energy transmission patterns when they try to absorb our ships. There's interference, like they can't process human technology properly. Santos understood immediately, because we build things differently. Garden world species create technology in harmony with natural forces, but humans build weapons designed to break things.